Welcome to Ohio Stadium, the site of today's game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and Iowa Hawkeyes. The game kicks off at 3:30 p.m. on CBS. Going to be maybe the best test of the year so far for the Buckeyes, and they might be doing it without one of their standout offensive players. I'm joined by Tony Gerdeman at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tony, nothing certain yet, but a somewhat surprising name as listed as questionable on today's availability report.
Yeah, starting wide receiver Tate listed as questionable for this game, so that essentially that means a game time decision, not been listed out, not been listed as playing. Questionable, that's the news. Started every game this season, third leading receiver, third in receiving yards, third in touchdown catches. Maybe first in pancakes among receivers, though.
Yeah, definitely someone who has been a very impactful player on the outside. He and Emeka Egbuka have both been really good in blocking and being real assets in the run game. Jeremiah Smith, too. I don't want to give anyone short shrift here. The interesting question is, okay, what do they do if they don't have Tate? Because we have seen Emeka Egbuka play inside and outside. So in my mind, maybe you just move Emeka Egbuka outside and you have Brandon Inniss play in the slot. But what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, that's my thought. Is you just move, as you said, move Emeka outside to Carnell's spot, and then bring Brandon Inniss in. The other option would be to replace Tate with Jaden Ballard. I think would be the other option. But when you look at what they like to do with their receivers, I'm going to assume it would be Inniss in the slot and Emeka moves outside.
This is one of those watch what they do and not what they say, and it feels like they have been giving Brandon Inniss more snaps, throwing the ball in Brandon Inniss' direction more than they have in someone like Jaden Ballard. So it feels like that's probably going to be what they look at doing, but we'll all find out together whether Tate can really play, and then also whether, if he can't, what they choose to do about that. This is also a big recruiting weekend. We're going to have a bunch of recruits down on the field in about an hour or so from the time you're watching this. Going to be a big day there. But this is just a big day overall for the Buckeyes. You know that one of the games that they've had circled on the calendar all year long is waiting on deck next week in Eugene, Oregon. The Oregon Ducks won their game already this week, beating Michigan State 31-10 on Friday night. Now the Buckeyes have to sort of hold serve to set up what could be a massive game next weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be one where you don't want to look ahead, but this is also an Iowa team that the coaches will have implanted into the players' brains. You cannot look ahead. I probably even said, don't even watch the Friday night game. Don't even think about Oregon. Just stay off your feet, get ready for Iowa. Because one of the only ways you can lose this game is by giving it away. Mm-hmm. And because Iowa generally does not give games away, they just sometimes choose not to win them.
Yeah. This
one will be a situation where Ohio State can't afford to make mistakes, to keep things close, and if it's a game into the fourth quarter, then things get tight, and you never know. Like, this will be Will Howard's biggest game as an Ohio State Buckeye against the best defense that he's faced, and it's a defense that everybody knows about, everybody has seen, but you still have to execute against it. I think that's the biggest question right now. I assume the Ohio State defense will be able to limit the Iowa offense enough. It's how many points can the Ohio State offense score in what is the biggest game that they've seen to this point. Probably a very good crowd, and you have this looming Oregon trip coming, but you can't get there before you get done with this one.
Exactly, and this is one where the way Iowa wins this game, it feels like there's about 1.5 different ways they can win it. And all of the ways that they win this game involve the Ohio State offense not scoring 30 points. If the Ohio State offense scores 30 points, they're going to win the game pretty much, barring, I don't want to say act of God, but you're probably basically in the realm of force majeure that it would take for Iowa to win this game if the Buckeyes can get to 30 or so. So this is an Iowa team that is the most, this is an Iowa team, I guess, is the best way to say it. It is an Iowa team, and
that's all you need to say.
For all that, it's the same thing. It's like how Wisconsin had an identity as a program, Iowa has an identity as a program. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good, but they have an identity. They stick to that identity. This is an Iowa team. If Ohio State can just get a 10-point lead early, you're really putting a lot of pressure on Iowa, because I think for Iowa to succeed, they probably need to get some short fields and or points out of the defense, but they really need to be able to lean on Caleb Johnson in that run game.
Yeah, and that's where if Iowa can win on first down, then they have the opportunity to win on second and third. And I assume most of those first downs are going to be Caleb Johnson, unless they try to get crazy, which they generally don't try to do. So if you can slow down Caleb Johnson on first down, make second and third down that much tougher, I'm interested to see how they back out in the 4-3 again like they were last week to start the game. Michigan State took advantage of that in the passing game. Well, Iowa tried to do that. Maybe that's a way to lure Iowa into passing. It's by showing up with 3 line. Why not put a 4th linebacker out there and see how it goes? But Caleb Johnson's the story in this one. If you stop him, Iowa's offense will do nothing. That's another reason why you can't give them short fields. You can't make it easier for them. You can't shank a punt that goes out of bounds at your own 45, and then you only have to go 20 yards to get Iowa into scoring territory. Make them go 70, 75 yards every drive, and they may only have 2 scoring drives.
Right. I think the last time they were here, they scored about 7 points, and it was on a defensive touchdown. I don't think they scored offensive points the last time they were in Ohio Stadium. Obviously, a different Ohio State team. But this is one of these things where Ohio State coaches have been talking for a couple weeks. I think probably a little bit looking ahead to this game and also what's on deck in terms of the importance of tackling. Jim Knowles has talked about the importance of, if you hit them at 3 yards, you have to get them down at 3 yards. You can't let them turn and tackling them at 3 yards into, well, and then he fell forward and now it's 5 yards. Because if Iowa can stay on schedule, if Iowa can get 4 yards on first down and half of what they need on second down and then pick it up on third down, that's how they get these long, drawn-out drives, and then the Ohio State offense is sitting on the sideline for 6-7 minutes. If the Buckeyes can just get that tackle at 3 yards and then it's 2nd and 7 instead of 2nd and 5, that feels like that's going to be one of the single biggest stats, factors, whatever you want to categorize it as for this game.
Yeah, if Ohio State wins first down, they limit Iowa's efficiency on first down, then really this could be one of those games that gets out of hand. In an Iowa score kind of out of hand, like
right, yeah,
3 or 4 touchdowns for the majority of the second half where there's no hope of coming back. But limiting that first down, making it 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, now you're making Iowa think, should we throw here? Because do we want to risk another 2-yard gain? Because if you get 2 2-yard gains in a row, you're pretty much done. Iowa's pretty much done with their offense because they can't stretch the field. We know against Iowa State and Minnesota this year, Cade McNamara is averaging 3.35 yards per pass attempt. So 3 yards in a cloud of dust with your passing game, not exactly a good stat.
Not great, not what you're looking for. And I think we need to sort of set some expectations here as well, because there are people who I think are looking at this and going, well, Iowa doesn't have an offense. Certainly Ohio State should be able to pull away and win this game by 35 points. I guess there's a way that happens, and if Iowa really gets way behind, has to throw, then maybe you get a couple turnovers, you get some short fields, and it does sort of spiral like that. That's not what I'm expecting. I think if you watched the Oregon-Michigan State game, I don't think it's going to get there quite in the same way that it did for Oregon and Michigan State. But a game that ends in that range in terms of score, that was 31-10. Something that ends in that range here would be a great win for Ohio State. If you beat this Iowa team by 3 touchdowns and it's 31-10, everyone's going to look at it and go, boy, that was not a very good day for the Ohio State offense. With what Iowa does on defense and with as efficient as they are on defense and as disciplined and just on task as they are and assignment sound as they are, it's all the boring stuff that coaches talk about all the time. But it's all the stuff that makes you a really good defense. It's a pain in the butt to play against. And that's something I think everyone needs to sort of recognize going in. This is not going to be 63-3. That's not how it goes against an Iowa defense generally.
Not without a lot of help from the Iowa offense.
Yeah.
But I should have looked to see when was the last time Iowa gave up 35, 40 points in a game where Connor Stallions isn't on the sideline.
Yeah.
Actually, probably last year then, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there was like a 42-3 Big Ten championship game, but
really, like you don't expect to. You know, coaches going in there. No Ohio State offensive coach. You know, Minnesota offensive coach. Whoever's facing the Iowa defense is thinking, just going to run through these guys. They're thinking, We need to win on first down. We need to execute. Need to be able to run. Need to be able to play action. It's all very coach speak, cliche, because this is a very cliche Iowa defense and Iowa offense. So sometimes cliches are true because you've seen them. Like everybody has seen what they see from Iowa's offense and defense, especially their defense. Iowa's defense has seen what everybody has tried to do to them. So like, there's nothing new that Ohio State can do. As creative as Chip Kelly and Ryan Day get, I'm sure they've already seen the plays that they're drawing up, how they have worked against Iowa somewhere down the line. So it still comes down to the execution. We know coaches kept saying we're not going to out-scheme. You're never going to out-scheme Phil Parker and Iowa's defense. I do think there will be some scheming.
Sure.
Because of the way Iowa's defense plays. I don't want to call them a basic defense, but they'll stay in their zones, occasional blitzing, not a lot, just keep stuff in front of them, and force you to make a mistake or not pick up a 3rd and 4, however it has to be.
Right. They're going to make you earn it every step of the way down the field. And that against a team like Minnesota or a team like, take your pick of Big Ten West teams over the years. Purdue, Illinois, they're not good enough offenses to be able to consistently do that and go step by step and step down the field. This is a game where if Will Howard completes 75% of his passes, Ohio State's probably going to be fine. And if Ohio State can run for 4.5 yards per carry, they're probably going to be fine. If they're running for 2.5 yards a carry, and Will Howard's completing 60% of his passes, then you're getting off schedule. Then you're you're having those 3rd down passes that are incomplete. That's what Iowa wants to do. They want to kind of lure you into that kind of a game where you're just not able to do it consistently enough to be a success.
Well, and Will Howard's completion percentage was going up until last week. Completed 80% of his passes against Marshall, and that dipped to 60 whatever against Michigan State. I would expect him to be closer to 55 than 75 in this one.
Yeah.
Even with some of the short passes. And I'm not saying he's going to be 55%.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to complete some passes. Michigan State's defense is pretty aggressive at times. They were able to get some plays in there. I'm interested to see. No Big Ten team has allowed more than Iowa's 3 70-yard pass plays this season. The rest of the Big Ten has allowed 3 combined. I haven't seen any of those plays. I don't know how badly they were busted or what. But I know some Iowa people have complained about the big plays that Iowa's given up. So Ohio State has a big play offense, at least on the short passes.
Yeah.
Do they have a big play offense on the deep passes?
Right. Yeah. Can you throw the ball that's 50 yards in the air that turns into a 70-yard touchdown, and not just the ball that's 6 yards in the air that's a little tunnel screen to Jeremiah Smith that turns into a 70-yard touchdown? Because that one feels like that might not be there today. They might have to. If Iowa safeties are playing close to the line of scrimmage, you might have to go over the top.
Well, if you're missing Carnell Tate, you're missing some of that blocking.
Yep, for sure. So I put in my score prediction, and it was 31-13 Ohio State. Just feels like a game where the Buckeyes are not going to be able to go up and down the field, but they should be able to put the ball, they should be able to get the ball into the red zone a couple times a half. You kick a field goal at some point. If you can score touchdowns, you don't have to score that many points. If you get to 30, you're going to win this game.
Yeah.
Almost certainly you're going to win this game. And I think they can get to 30. Iowa's going to have a touchdown drive at some point, and everyone's going to freak out. And it's just, as long as Ohio State is sort of methodical about things, and then maybe creates a short field here or there, it feels like there's an opportunity for them to. This is not going to be a flashy win, but it feels like it could be a relatively comfortable win. You want them to be on the sidelines in the end of the 3rd quarter going, okay, we can kind of mentally turn the page to Oregon a little bit.
Yeah. I went 35-10. We both had them scoring 5 times. It feels very odd not picking a field goal in a game like this.
Yeah.
But I did it. I went bold, 35-10. And is it that 3rd quarter where they get their 2 touchdowns? I feel like the first half you might only see a touchdown every 3 drives per quarter, something like that. It's 7-0 for a very long time, or 7-3 for a very long time before maybe that middle 8 where Ohio State scores a couple of times to distance themselves.
This game being 10-3 with 5 minutes left in the 2nd quarter, I'm 100% able to see that. This just feels like it's going to be a game where it's not going to be pretty. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just needs to be a win for Ohio State and then be able to move on to the Oregon game. And so how will it go? Well, we will all be here to talk about it after the game on our post-game show. It generally starts a couple minutes before the game actually ends. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Hit that bell so you get notified. Maybe leave yourself a note in your phone for 7 o'clock or so, 7:05. Hey, get on to that Buckeye Huddle post-game show, just so you don't forget, because we'll be here talking about that. We'll have our usual instant analysis, the interviews with Ryan Day and Ohio State players and coaches, and then we'll have the Buckeye Weekly post-game show with Tony and I. We'll probably start taking a little bit of a peek ahead at that Oregon game as well. We know you've been dying to have us talk about it. We have been kind of interested in talking about it as well. It will be here after the game. We hope to see you there. That will do it for now. See you guys after the game.